I mean, they say that Belgians and Swedes both, they left over the other old country, we call it. And they weren't afraid to come over here
Really?
and go to work. But I'd be scared to death
Yeah.
to leave a country to go to another country.
Right.
You know. And so my dad came over here then, and it was strange for him too, because he had,
You guys all came over together, right?
I was only about 14 months old.
Oh.
And so he, I think I told you, his dad died an hour after they got into Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Here they are, two dumb Swedes that didn't know anything. They're arriving in Chicago, which is a rough town anyway.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it wasn't so rough that time. But
Right.
anyway, what are we going to do, you know?
Yeah.
So my mother had two sisters that lived in Moline.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And the only thing they could think of to do is to come to Moline.
Yeah.
And so they did, and Susie and one of the other sisters, they all put in for a place in Moline. And one of her other sisters went to work for Augustana College in the cafeteria.
Oh.
And so that's how come they ended up in Moline.
Huh.
And so,
Did they just pick Chicago randomly, or is that they wanted to be with their
no,
sisters?
I don't know how come they didn't want to live in Chicago. Maybe they thought it was rough too, you know.
Yeah.
Didn't want to stay there. But my Aunt Susie must have gotten used to staying in a small town, so they probably picked Moline in place of Chicago.
Right.
And
Huh.
so that's how come my mother ended up in Moline, because Aunt Susie was in Moline.
Yeah.
And the other one went to school for Augustana College because she worked in the cafeteria. And
What was your mom's maiden name?
Erickson.
Erickson.
And you see, Aunt Minnie ended up in California. And Aunt Lily ended up, I think she must have come back to Moline. But Aunt Lily, I think they had connections somehow in Lily that they were going to work in the Augustana cafeteria is what they were going to like.
Oh.
So they both went to work at, like I say, in the cafeteria. And that's where they were going to stay. So Susie and my mother, I guess, she must have stayed there because of Katie could get on at Augustana in the cafeteria.
So, how many sisters did your mom have?
3.
3? Oh.
I think my mother went to work too for a clothing company. In Sweden, they always had their kids, for some reason in Sweden, first place you usually worked was in a clothing place.
Huh.
So she knew how to do sewing, you know, and that. So when she got married and married my dad, why, she was working at one of the clothing factories.
Oh.
And she could do that as far as that's concerned, but I think she stayed on at Augustana.
Oh. And what part of Sweden were they from?
Småland.
Småland. Okay, I think I knew that.
Yeah,
Småland.
and she continued to work for Augustana, I think, and then also she must have I think she got on in a clothing thing there, but she also worked at Augustana, and that's how she that's how she made her money. You know?
Yeah. What did your dad?
Huh?
What'd your dad do for a living?
What did my dad do?
Yeah.
I don't know if he got on and learned to be a tool maker, because I don't know where he learned to do tool making otherwise, you know. And so I'd be afraid to take off
Yeah, I
in
would
another
too.
country. You know.
I think I would go like and live for a while, maybe, but I don't think I would move forever.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to Italy for like a year. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
My favorite band is from Sweden.
Really?
Yeah,
What'd you say?
they're called The Sounds.
Oh, really?
They're pretty popular, but not mainstream popular.
Yeah.
And the lead singer, her name is Maya Iverson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that one lady that comes in that's so friendly that owns the restaurant there. She just sits and eats all this information up. She's so
Yeah,
interested in
it's
it.
cool.
And
Does your dad have brothers and sisters?
yes, but they all stayed over in Sweden.
Oh, really?
My mother had Uncle Eric, which was her brother. He looked like Errol Flynn. He was
Eric Erickson?
yeah, yeah, that's right. And he looked like Errol Flynn. He was a good-looking son of a gun, but he drank like a fish. And he used to be a painter.
Yeah.
And he was so drunk and he fell off the ladder that he didn't even hurt himself because he was like a goose. So what did the sisters, I don't know, my folks didn't have much money, but they took up a collection and sent him back to Sweden. They didn't want him over here because Uncle Maury, Ozzy's dad, he wasn't chief of police then, but he worked on the police department. And so he worked for the Moline Police Department, and when you turned down that alley there and had to turn up to go into the yard of where he was living,
Yeah.
and then see, I was downtown with some of my friends I went to school with, and my Aunt Susie, she'd be so embarrassed because Uncle Eric was something. My mother took in washing and ironing, and there was a lot of men that were bachelors that came from Sweden.
Yeah.
And so word got from one to the other that my mother did washings and Susie did washing and ironing. They were all bachelors, so that's what they wanted, was somebody to
Well, yeah.
take over their stuff for them. So I can remember being downtown Moline, and I probably told you this. I was with two of my girlfriends. One of them says, "Look at that crazy guy standing in the middle of Fifth Avenue and 15th Street there directing traffic. He was soused." They said, "Look at that crazy guy." And I didn't want to say it was my Uncle Eric. I just couldn't. And so anyway, he had made, in order to get to the house, you went down this little alley and then you turned into where the house would be. And he was laying on the road, soused, and Maury almost drove over him because he came in to, go in the house, and he turned and here's Uncle Eric laying across the driveway. So they all took up the question and sent him back to Sweden. They were so embarrassed with him.
That's funny.
But they sent him back to Sweden. And he went back there and he straightened out for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't stay that way, so
Yeah.
that's when they decided to send him back.
Yeah.
But he married a lady over there that was real nice.
Well, that's good. How many brothers and sisters did he have, your dad?
Let's see. I think he had, as far as my dad's side of the family, I don't remember too much about him, but I think about 3 or 4.
Oh,
So he got back to Sweden and he found this nice lady, and that's where he stayed then from
Yeah.
when he went back to Sweden.
that's good.
But Susie stayed here. She and of course, as far as it was, my mother was back here, and Aunt Susie and Aunt Lily. Aunt Lily was Aunt Lily lived in Michigan, and what was the one that she won a beauty contest? I guess she was so beautiful. She had she reminds me a lot of that one here with the real curly
Yeah.
pinky hair, and so she reminds me a lot of her. But let's see, Aunt Minnie, the one that was the beauty contest, she lived in California. She moved to California and got married out there.
Oh,
So I did have Uncle Jay and
what was her last name?
Livesey,
Lives-
Liveesay. And she won a beauty contest, and they all married. Like say, she married a guy from in California, and she stayed there. She had 2 or 3 boys and a girl, and then